I didn't know any English. I couldn't even schedule an interview, let alone attend one.
Where do people get money for the first stage based on your experience?
For my company, which I had, and Uncle Clement was just opened, I wasn't given any loans at all. If you have the money, start production. With your mentality and your field, it seems to you that it's cool, they don't have it. So I'll launch this now and everyone will do it. Pay attention, look at other bloggers who talk more about the small business administration. If we're to travel to America today, honestly, I had a goal when I was going to America. Hi everyone, it's Oleksiy Buzina. Welcome to the podcast. This is our first podcast. I've been living in America for 10 years now, and people often reach out to me for help and questions. We met with you and called me asking questions. I always say, let's do it over the phone. I don't have time in person. Sasha pulled me out. My wife was like, where did you go at 7 in the evening? You should be at home. Well, a person needs something that might help them. An immigrant arrives, it's tough. We all arrive, and it's really tough for everyone. A lot of ambitious people come to America with the American dream. Not everyone achieves it, and it's really tough because there's a lot of competition and many people come with big dreams. The goal of this podcast is to help people make fewer mistakes on their first journey. I went through it and made some mistakes. Immigrants that I will be interviewing, how long have you been in America?
About a few years.
A year and a half. You already have some background. Do you have any questions? I've lived here for 10 years. I've stepped on a lot of rakes. This is a really serious issue. So, maybe this will be really helpful for other people who have come and want to start their own business. I have expertise in all the service business. So I do plumbing, home maintenance, and basically, the service business, or less maintenance, is similar. So, just started a business in water damage restoration. For those who don't understand, this is when it gets damp. The walls here are made of wood and drywall, and mold is growing inside. And to remove it, you need to dry it out. That's how it all works. Yes, I have a partner, and I'm also a 50% owner of this company. So I understand this topic a bit. Oleksiy has some questions for me, and I'll be answering them. So we have a conversation, but it's on camera. So that the information I'm sharing with Oleksiy can be useful for hundreds or thousands of other people. We will also be translating into 4 languages. The original is recorded in Ukrainian, but we will translate into English, Spanish, and Russian. Because there are so many people moving here from Latin America, and they are also moving to Myria and want to start their own businesses. So maybe our information and our experience will be useful for them. Also, people are coming from other countries who already know English and can listen in English, because we can't translate into all languages. Russian, because a lot of people from the former Soviet Union are coming here, like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus. A lot of people in Ukraine speak Russian. The Baltics almost don't speak Russian anymore, but there are people who do, so this could be useful for immigrants from other countries who understand it. They know their own language, but they also know Russian as an international language, and that will be useful for them too. So, go ahead. What's your first question for me?
Yes, indeed, absolutely. With your extensive background and expertise, if you were to come to America today, hypothetically speaking, given the current economic and social climate and the evolving technological landscape, where would you start? Considering the diverse opportunities and challenges that exist in various sectors.
Where would I start? Honestly, I had a goal when I came to America to work for someone for 3 years, to understand the language and culture, because I didn't know any English at all. I couldn't even buy gas at the station. I couldn't say 2 words. But life circumstances turned out such that after a year and a half, I had to go live with my family because I couldn't afford to pay rent for an apartment, or I had to start my own business, or go back to a job where I was barely making ends meet. It was work, installing parquet and laminate. So, looking back, what I planned happened even faster than I expected. So it's hard for me to say now that I would have done anything differently. And in the future, I would have made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot from those mistakes. It was a challenging journey, but I had a goal. But those first 2-3 years when I started doing things and how it all unfolded, I probably couldn't have done better than it was. So it was really tough. It was hard. I had a goal because I wanted to be a plumber. I came here. I had friends who worked in tile, and they were talking about how bad things were for them, how they didn't like the prices. I say, why don't you change it? Why aren't we doing something else? And they say, well, if we start doing something else now, we're making about 20. That was 10 years. Go. I say, we're making about $20 an hour. If we change jobs and start something new, we'll be earning $9 to $11 an hour, which is half of what we're making now. He says, we physically can't change the nature of our work. It's really hard. And I'm like, okay. For me, that was really important information. And I said, okay, what do I want to do? I'm like, want to get into plumbing. I have experience in plumbing in Ukraine. And I understand that in construction, plumbing always brings in fresh money. So you went, did something, got paid, and brought home some cash. So it doesn't stretch out over a week or a month. It doesn't drag on. You go in one day, change the faucet, and you get paid. You change the water heater and you got paid. Here it's called COD, cash on delivery, meaning you do the job and you get paid right on the spot. And I tried to do interviews for plumbing jobs, but I didn't have any English. I couldn't even schedule an interview, let alone show up. One time it went really badly. They said, okay, come at this time. But then half an hour later, they called back and said, never mind, we don't need you. Well, because she said my English was bad, they said, no, we don't even want him to come here. Once, somehow badly, they told me, okay, come at such and such a time. But then half an hour later, they called back and said, that's it, we don't need it. Well, because she said her English was bad, they said, no, he shouldn't even come here. So it was really hard to get a job as a plumber, just to understand how it works, to grasp the concept. Well, yeah.
Lars, please tell us, this question is quite important for those who have just arrived or are planning to come to America, where people can get money at the initial stage. From your experience, are there any funds in America, any organizations, any groups for starting your own business? Because people who just arrived, the American banks won't give them money since they don't have a credit history and so on. Maybe you can give some advice. Where can people get a small amount of money? Are there companies that give grants?
There are some companies that give grants and some additional details about the companies. I tried placing an order, but they actually took my money and didn't do anything. Although I saw that they've been doing this for a long time and it seems serious and everything and all that, I wrote it down. It didn't go anywhere. There's an organization called the SBA, Small Business Administration. I didn't have any English. I couldn't. There are consultants you can go to, and the government comes the guarantor because the bank won't give you a loan. But the government says, okay, if he doesn't pay you back the loan, we'll cover. Well, in that case, I haven't used the Small Business Administration even once in 10 years. So I was managing on my own. So pay attention. Check out other bloggers who talk more about the Small Business Administration. That's the idea of where to go, where to dig, where to look for info. Unfortunately, don't have a lot of information about the Small Business Administration. By the way, it's a very interesting topic. Maybe I'll invite someone who knows a lot and has done a lot about the Small Business Administration. We could record a podcast where someone talks more about the Small Business Administration, how to get money, and loans from there. I went there, tried, but closed due to COVID. No response. Or figured it out without them. Because government officials slow to act, and it should be you who needs it, not them. Got it? Regarding loans, if you come and open a business, they will consider you and give you a loan only if the business has been around for at least 2 years. So when I started my business, opened Plumbing UA DBA. It wasn't an LLC, it wasn't a corporation, it was just a DBA. I went to the city, paid $70, got a business license, and opened Handyman Plumbing UA in my name. And I was doing this plumbing, and then when I needed to buy my first piece of equipment, a hydrojet for $50,000, or for my company, Onco Plumbing, which had just opened, they didn't give me a loan at all. I took my documents that I had, Handyman Plumbing UA, it had been a little over 2 years. They said, gladly, here you go, 6.5%, please take your equipment. But for the new company, they were offering me 25, 30% interest rates because the company is less than 2 years old. So the 2-year aspect of the company is very important. Before that, banks don't look at you at all. Look at credit unions. Charge around 30% interest. Got it.
Can you please tell me, from your experience, what are the main differences in doing business in Ukraine and in America? And so the main differences might be in the mentality of Americans and Ukrainians. And in life, in business, what advice would you give from your experience?
I remember one acquaintance, we called him Uncle Vova. His last name was Babbage, and he would come over. He is my dad's friend from childhood. He would come to America, and people would talk to him. I remember his phrase. He says that in America, money is everywhere. You just have to reach out and take them. I remember that phrase, and when I came to America, I really saw that people had money. So here in Ukraine, you come in and see that people are living on their last bit of money. There are people who have money, but the percentage is small. Most people live paycheck to paycheck and don't have enough money. So here I saw that people also live paycheck to paycheck, but there's still a gap, and the financial opportunities are much different. So the aspect that I took for myself is that people have money. So if you offer them a service, they can pay for it. So they're not choosing between buying food for themselves or paying you for the service, you know. It's like they can buy food and they can pay you for the service. And the previous question was, why a podcast specifically about the service business? Because when I first arrived in America, I read something really cool from a person. He says, if you have money, start a production. If you don't have money, go into services, meaning go into servicing, because that's where you can make money. And the starting capital is minimal. Well, for example, for me to start plumbing, I needed maybe $500 to buy the minimum tools that you work with, and then little by little, you start showing up for work. Yeah, you need to buy something for $20, $30, $50 to get started. So, bought the first tools, a few things to solder. 3 main things. You're already doing some basic work with him. Then you add more, you do more, and little by little you buy more equipment and grow.
That is really cool. If you were offered to do something else, hypothetically, not plumbing business, but something else, what could that possibly be?
I like water damage restoration. That's what you do. So, that's my topic. Why? Because insurance companies pay it's hard to get a lead, but the work is the same. They don't need specialists. For me to have a good plumber, it takes about 3 to 5 years of training. To teach a person, for them to know. There to teach someone to do it, you need 3 months. You already have a decent specialist, because there aren't really that many specialized jobs there. You break it, try it. So breaking is much easier than building. So it's a really cool topic. It can be scaled. There's a big competition, but it can be scaled. And your average ticket there is $5,000 to $10,000. Do you understand? So the average ticket is quite big. And I also like trading because it's much easier to scale it. So if it's hard to break through, in terms of scale, it's easy to fail and lose money. But whether you sell 100 sets of blankets there or 100 home services you just need to load it up and send it out. But here, if you're doing 10 and you need to do 100, you have to increase the number of workers by 10, train them, and fine-tune the system. So it's not an easy business. It's a tough business in the service sector. But it's an opportunity to start without any initial capital.
If we touched a bit on the topic of water damage restoration, please share from your experience, because I'm personally interested in it, and maybe our followers are too. What advice do you have in this business in terms of where to find people and how to best set up these stations? And from your business, in terms of we'll get it through older businesses.
Always there. The referral system works. At this stage, they pay, I can't remember if it's $500 or $1,000 for a referral to plumbers. So you get to know the plumbers, you talk to them, and you say, if there's something flooded, send me a client. I'll do the work, and you get your $1,000 and 10%. So they give $1,000, but if the job is over $10,000, then they pay the rest of the money. So my recommendation is, If you go into plumbing supply stores, there are always tables set up by big companies, giving out burritos, handing out sandwiches and everything else so that people come over, grab something tasty, and pick up a bunch of different merch, like various items with phone numbers, and they say, come on. And they also did this thing, if you sign an exclusive contract with us, meaning you work only with us, then we do one job for you for free each year. Sometimes you get flooded, so you don't have to call a company. So you take these people and they do the work for you. I've had a few serious floods like that. And by the way, both are clearly at fault. Because I worked with offices. Didn't cost me very much. That would have cost me a lot. So there's this thing about communicating with companies. You give them a bonus. Hey, we'll do a little job for you for free, or you can just charge the equipment and your time, you know? He'll pay you $1,000, but he won't pay you $5,000 to $7,000. And for him, it's great. So it's all about relationships. Here, business is all about relationships because you build relationships with insurance agents you talk to. They don't advertise a lot because when it happens just like this. And a person either calls a plumber saying, I have a leak, come over, or they call an insurance agent saying, I have a leak, send someone. Sometimes a person goes online and looks for where there's a leak. And again, insurance companies, they hire plumbers and they advertise that there's a leak. They hire plumbers and say, you do the work, I give you the lead, you do the work, and then you send that client back to me. That's why there's collaboration. Collaborating, Google Ads, everything else, I haven't heard that it works very well.
Thank you. What would you advise maybe to those people who have just arrived in America or are thinking about coming to America? Should I start my own business or get a job? Get a bit of experience.
Get a job.
100%.
Because what I hear is that many people, well, not a lot, but I hear stories. Let's say I don't personally know many people, but I hear stories about people who come here and start a cool business in Ukraine. There was one person who started bringing paints from Europe to sell, and they built a really cool, awesome business in Ukraine selling paints and made hundreds of thousands of dollars there. He was like, we're going to America, that's it, we're going to conquer America, everything's going to be great here. In a year, he spent $100,000 and left. You understand, right? Billion-dollar companies sell paints everywhere. Painters buy where their family did. Even with cheaper or better options, they won't switch. He buys from where his family always has, refusing to change even for better deals. And to make him buy from someone else, even if it's 20% cheaper or the paint is 20% better, he just won't do it. Because his grandfather and father bought, they buy, and they will keep buying. And they don't need it. So people are used to the system, to stability. America hasn't been at war. Everything was smooth and stable here. There was always culture and habits. Immigrants bring ideas to America, but cultural differences can cause misunderstandings. It's about different habits and perspectives. With your mentality and your perspective, it seems cool to you, but they don't have it. You think, I'm going to launch this and everyone will do it. But Americans look at you like, what a strange person, what's he on about? They don't understand what it's for. To them, it has zero value because they have different values, a different life, a different perspective. And it's not that it's wrong, it's just a habit. That's how people did it. That's how they got used to it. We have our own habits in our countries where we live, and then another person comes, maybe some immigrants come to our countries. This is cool. We start, walk, look. What a strange person. What are they doing? What is it for? We don't even think it's wrong just because someone does it differently. Oh, and that's okay. Indeed, different countries, different cultures, different habits. We live differently.
If you had to choose and someone asked you which state to live in, America, which one would you pick and why?
It definitely wouldn't be California. Definitely not California. It wouldn't be Oregon, and it wouldn't be Washington State. 100%, it might all be Texas. Maybe it would be the sounds of North Carolina. Georgia, somewhere in this area of the States. An example, I have a friend, she's a really great friend of mine from Ukraine. We were friends. Sometimes we visit each other. Ella, she lives in Nebraska. And she came to this little scandalous village. What to do here, you know, all like that. Ella, sorry if I'm compromising you, but I'm sharing your secrets. and she wanted to move somewhere, maybe to San Diego with us, maybe to Florida, places that are well known. She started her own business there. She does permanent makeup, eyebrow work, for which she charges $700. Here, they charge $300, $350 in San Diego. And the cost of living there is half as much. A house is 4 times cheaper, but her service costs twice as much as here in San Diego. So, with the mentality that all the money is in big cities in America, it doesn't work. So, if you think that living in a big city means people are making money. In Ukraine, Kyiv, Dnipro, Kharkiv, where money is in leftover cities, not great. It doesn't work that way here. In big cities, there's a huge influx of immigrants. And because of the large influx of immigrants, prices for services are 2 to 3 times lower. And for example, I work with marketing companies, and they tell me how great they are, how they got someone to the top. I ask, how many people live in the city? 150, 200, 300,000? You're talking about a city with 300,000. Show me someone from a city with 1 million. What do you want to offend people who live in the city? A settlement with 300,000 people is a normal place. I'm not saying it's a small place, but advertising and promoting someone in a city of 300,000 on Google Maps is 10 times easier than in a city with 1 million. Because when companies spend $1 million, 1.5, 2 million a year on advertising, and you have a budget of $500 a month, how are you going to compete? Where's that company? But you have the same clients. When you go to a small town where there are no big companies, things are much cheaper. There's a YouTube channel called Mivova from Belarus. He offers services as a handyman. And for plumbing services, he charges more for the work than I do as a licensed plumber. In Texas, he charges more for the work. A small town, nice houses, nice neighborhoods. Everyone lives a peaceful life. He charges more for the work than I do. More. I am like, I can't do this job for $150. They say it's too expensive. He charges $350. How? Do you understand? That's why big cities attract immigrants. I think that's wrong. It makes life really complicated. Actually, it's easier to go to a small town where there aren't enough people and where they will get things done. For example, I have a friend who came to Kansas, I think. Kansas is a state or a city somewhere in the Midwest. Was offered. At $65 an hour. Here you'd work 30 years in the earn that. That's because there aren't enough skills. They will never pay that kind of money. And that's because there aren't enough people to work. He came and everything. He had 4 or 5 children, I don't remember. He rented a house, $1,200 a month. You can't rent a room for that kind of money in a big city. Family, providing for them. Then he went to work at a factory. More of a steady job. And they started him at $25. Gave him $25 an hour, plus bonuses and everything else. Oh, leave. But then he moved to Florida. And for $20 an hour. He says, how? For me to survive on your prices, I need to earn at least 40. 40? Talking about no such money. Understand? He doesn't earn much. He wants a house. He doesn't earn a lot, but it's enough for a house. And after just 1 year, in America, he already wants to buy himself a house. I've been in America for 10 years. I have a multi-million-dollar business, and I can't buy a house in San Diego. Why? So, what do you mean by that?
What did you want to achieve when you came here? What were your goals? What hasn't happened? What haven't you been able to do yet?
I want to start a business in 3 years. My main goal wasn't to have millions, yachts, ships, or houses. That didn't happen. I was driving. And my main goal was to start my own business in 3 years in Ukraine. I started doing business at 18. And at 28, I moved to America. In 10 years in Ukraine, I didn't have a single successful business. I haven't done anything yet. Nothing has worked out for me. I'm thinking, am I disabled? People start, they're done. I'm not doing anything yet. Nothing is working out for me. Well, it was probably God's will for me to move to America and start here. I don't know, but when I came to America, I started my own business and I didn't have a whole lot. Of course, I thought I would buy a house. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to buy a house for 10 years this time. So probably the one thing I really want but don't have is a house. This is our first video, and if it hits 100 likes, then we'll record another interview with Alexei. And we'll answer the questions you ask. Please ask any questions you have in the comments under the interview. And after that, we'll pick the best question that we like. We'll choose the best question. Winner gets a t-shirt. And after that, we'll pick the best question that we like. And the person who asks that question will get a branded t-shirt from Alm Koplamin.